North Atlantic, beyond the last sheltered waters of Scotland's western edge, there is a place where the sea never truly rests. The Flannan Isles rise abruptly from the water, jagged, treeless, and exposed, like remnants of something broken long ago. For centuries, sailors avoided them when they could. Charts marked them, but stories warned against them. Waves there behaved differently. Wind gathered strength. Sound carried strangely across the rock. On the largest of these islands, Eilean Mòr, a lighthouse, stands alone. It was built at the very end of the 19th century, raised from stone and iron by men who understood the dangers of the coast. Its purpose was simple and absolute: to shine a light where ships most needed it, and to do so without fail. The tower was solid, its walls thick, its lantern powerful. Inside, a Fresnel lens turned methodically, casting a beam far out across the Atlantic. The lighthouse was not meant to be comfortable. It was meant to endure. To keep it alive, 3 men were stationed there at all times. Life on Eilean Mòr followed routine. Lamps were cleaned, oil was measured, machinery inspected, and logs written. Meals prepared at fixed hours. The light was never to be left unattended. That rule was sacred. In December of 1900, 3 keepers were assigned to the island. James Ducott, the principal keeper, steady and experienced. Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, careful and conscientious. And Donald MacArthur, the occasional keeper, younger, standing in for another man who was ill. They were not reckless men. They knew the sea. They respected it. And yet, by the end of that month, all 3 would be gone. On the night of the 15th of December, a transatlantic steamer pushed eastwards through heavy Atlantic weather, bound for the port of Leith. As she passed the latitude of the Flannan Isles, her crew looked toward the horizon. They were expecting to see the lighthouse. They did not. Where there should have been a steady, reassuring beam, there was only darkness. The ship continued on its course. There was nothing else the crew could do. The absence of the light was logged, and when the vessel docked 3 days later, the information was quietly passed on to the Northern Lighthouse Board. At first, there was no alarm. Storms could interfere with operations, and mechanical problems happened. But winter weather closed in, and attempts to reach the island were delayed again and again by rough seas. It was not until the day after Christmas that a lighthouse tender was finally able to make the journey. Her name was Hesperus. She carried supplies, relief keepers, and the expectation of an ordinary visit. Reliefs followed a familiar pattern. Flags flown to signal readiness, provisional boxes left at the landing, keepers waiting to greet the ship. As Hesperus approached Eilean Mòr, none of this was visible. The lighthouse stood dark. No flag flew from the mast. No figures appeared on the cliffs. The captain ordered the ship's horn sounded. The sound echoed against the rock and vanished into the wind. There was no response. A rocket was fired into the gray sky. Still nothing. Unease settled over the crew. At last, the captain made his decision. A small boat was lowered, and one man was sent ashore alone. His name was Joseph Mòr. Mòr was himself a lighthouse keeper, accustomed to isolation, accustomed to danger. As his boat scraped against the landing and he stepped onto the island, the silence struck him immediately. Something was wrong. He climbed the path toward the lighthouse. The gate was closed. The main door was shut. Inside, the building felt recently occupied, yet abandoned. The beds were unmade, just as they would have been left after rising in the morning. The clock had run down. The fire was cold. The fuel reservoirs were full. The light had been prepared and then never lit. Mòr searched every room. There was no sign of the keepers. He returned to the landing shaken and reported what he had seen. Alarmed, the captain ordered a fuller search. The afternoon light was already fading when the Hesperus drew close to the Flannan Islands. From the deck, Captain Harvey scanned the cliffs of Eilean Mòr through the cold Atlantic air. A rocket was fired from the ship, a sharp burst against the sky. The kind meant to demand attention. Nothing answered it. As Harvey went ashore and began the climb toward the lighthouse, something unsettled him. Above the path, perched against the stone, were 3 large black birds, motionless and watching. They did not scatter as he approached. They remained where they were, silent and still, like sentinels. Inside the lighthouse, the unease deepened. That same evening, Captain Harvey sent an urgent telegram to the mainland. Its words carried the shock of what he had found. A dreadful accident has happened at Flannan. The 3 keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the Occasional, have disappeared from the island. On our arrival there this afternoon, no sign of life was to be seen on the island. Fired a rocket, but as no response was made, managed to land Mòr, who went up to the station but found no keepers there. The clocks were stopped, and other signs indicated that the accident must have happened about a week ago. Poor fellows. They must have blown over the cliffs, or drowned trying to secure crane, or something like that. Night coming on. We could not wait to make something as to their fate. I have left Mòr, MacDonald, Boymaster, and 2 seamen on the island to keep the light burning until you make other arrangements. Will not return to Oban until I hear from you. I have repeated this wire to Muirhead in case you are not home. I will remain at the telegraph office tonight until it closes, if you wish to wire me. In a further report, Harvey described the island in greater detail. The eastern landing showed no disturbance at all. Nothing to support danger or accident. But the western side told another story. A storage box used to hold mooring ropes had vanished from its position, partly up the railway. Ropes that should have been secured inside it were found scattered across the rocks below. Iron railings across the passageway had been torn from their foundations and twisted apart. The railings around the crane were gone completely, as was the handrail used to secure the boats. And yet the crane itself remained intact. Of the men, only fragments of routine hinted at their final moments. Marshall had gone out wearing his sea boots and oilskins. Ducat had his boots on as well, but his heavier protective gear was missing. Donald MacArthur's only coat was still hanging inside the lighthouse, suggesting he had stepped out wearing nothing more than his shirt. The detail disturbed investigators deeply. MacArthur never used any other coat. When Robert Muirhead, superintendent of the Northern Lighthouse Board, and the man who had hired all 3 keepers examined the records, he found entries that raised further questions. On December 12th, Thomas Marshall had written of severe winds like the likes of which I had never seen before in 20 years. He noted that James Ducat had become unusually withdrawn. He also recorded that William MacArthur, a seasoned sailor with a reputation for toughness, had been crying. The following day's entry stated that the storm continued and that all 3 men had been praying. The final line, dated December 15th, read, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." What troubled Muirhead and others was not just the tone of these entries, but the contradiction that they posed. The lighthouse was new, solid, and secure, built to withstand Atlantic gales far worse than any ordinary storm. And yet, local accounts insisted that no significant storms had passed through the area on the 12th, 13th, or 14th of December at all. The island was searched repeatedly. The sea was watched. No bodies were ever recovered. No explanation could fully account for why one man would leave the lighthouse in midwinter without his coat, or why all 3 would abandon the light at once. They searched the island thoroughly, every gully, every cliff edge, every hollow where something might have washed ashore. They found nothing, no bodies, no clothing, no trace. If Ducat and Marshall were taken first, what of MacArthur? Did he look out and see nothing? Did he hear the sea behaving in a way that told him something was wrong? Did he rush out and without stopping to dress properly, hoping to hope? The sea would not have given him time. In the years that followed, the mystery refused to fade. Some suggested violence among the men, a fight near the cliffs, even murder. But no evidence ever supported these ideas. Only the sea remained consistent. Eilean Mòr's western coast is carved into narrow chasms where water funnels inward and explodes upwards with immense force. In certain conditions, the ocean does not behave like waves. In the years that followed, later keepers spoke quietly of hearing voices in the wind, voices calling out names that no longer belonged to the living. Some said a ghost ship had come silently alongside the island and taken them away. None of these tales could be proven. What remained was the lighthouse, the sea, and the mystery that refused to be settled. Today, the lighthouse still stands. Its light still turns. But no one lives there now. No footsteps echo inside its walls. No hands wind the clock. No men stand watch over the Atlantic. The sea still crashes against the cliffs, and the island keeps its secret. 3 men went to the edge of the world to hold back the dark. And the dark took them instead. The light returned, they did not.